Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight Black Mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and welcome to another live edition of the Midnight Black Mass on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am your host, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Rev, Dan the Dragon Wilson, alongside my co-host, the Southeastern Strangler, Party Boy, Andrew Alexander, and we got a little eggnog to squirt in your face this week.
Party Boy in the house.
So, you missed our big return last week, but you were present at my daughter's birthday party like a true member of the Rejects family. But how's it been going, man? We've been off for a while. It took us a nice little hiatus, and now we're back in the saddle and about to wrap up this volume in this 2016, and then in 2017 move on to some new, more fun stuff. But what's been going on with you?
Man, not a whole lot. I've just been living life, man, doing absolutely nothing as usual. Enjoying it as usual. Watching a little wrestling here and there. Trying to keep up with as many of my stories as I can. Getting excited for this Star Wars coming out this week. This usual shit. Christmas shopping. Black Friday shopping. The usual.
Black Friday shopping, eh?
Yeah. I enjoy the occasional Black Friday. I wouldn't say I enjoy it. I just, I don't go all out. I don't go to a lot of places, a lot of craziness. But we'll get into that later, I'm sure.
I'm sure we will. I enjoy going out and getting some deals. Like, I'm not one of those motherfuckers that'll camp out for hours to get my hands on the hot toy of the year, to give me a tub o' mine. But in this case, it was the Hatchimal that was the hot toy. My daughter wanted one. She was informed that the Hatchimal mommy had given all of her babies away, and she was going to have to wait until January when more babies were born. So she was very understanding of that and knows she will not be getting a Hatchimal under the Christmas tree, because people are selling those things for like $1,000 on eBay, and it's a $60 toy, and apparently it's a giant piece of shit from what I've heard. Hearsay. Allegedly, it's a giant piece of shit. So I'm not really distraught that I didn't spend a 1,500% markup on this shitty toy when I can probably get it at a discount in January, because everybody will have gotten them and will, be highly disappointed with them. Allegedly. So, the fucking Hatchimal. I did not get involved in any Black Friday scuffles for that reason.
I've heard about that, man. It seems like it's been a little while since the last, there was a holiday toy that was that big. And, I've never even seen one of those things. I didn't know it was a thing until maybe it was, too late. I'd have loved to have scored me a couple of those and flipped them, because I'd have man, to make $1,000 off one of those little shit, God, that would have made my holiday season. I would have loved it.
It would have filled your stocking.
Oh, it would have stuffed it right. And because I wouldn't have been getting like, you know, if I knew somebody, like if you were like, hey man, I need one of those Hatchimals, I'd be like, oh yeah, well it'll cost you $1,000 because I'm sitting on gold, son.
Yeah, you know, and I know it's like the rich kids that are getting them, right? So, you know, the parents who well, my kid has to have everything they want. And I'm like, hey, I love my kid. I spoil my kid rotten, actually. And I do want to give her everything she wants, but in due time. You got to learn some damn patience. So,
yeah, I wouldn't break the bank for anything like that, or you know, because like you said, there's going to come the point sooner rather than later where you're going to be able to find those things everywhere. I mean, especially if there's such a buzz, that company, whoever makes it, is going to be sending some more out. They're going to try to ride that cash cow as long as they can. But especially if you said it's a piece of shit, yeah, it'll be soon to be able to score one, be a nice surprise, maybe a Valentine's Day gift. Because apparently parents buy their kids Valentine's Day gifts. I never got shit for Valentine's Day. And hell, that's an ongoing theme for my adult life too, because I don't get shit for Valentine's Day now.
Yeah, that's a fact. It wasn't a thing when I was a kid, but it's a thing that we do for our kid. Where my wife's like, "Oh, it's Valentine's Day. We're gonna get Rory some presents." I'm like,
"What?
Like a chocolate heart isn't enough?"
Yeah. I mean, give them some candy, but shit, when does the gift giving stop? Oh Lord, you need to just write in a card, "Happy Valentine's Day. You have lights in your room." You're welcome. What about the other hot toy this holiday season? I know it's been a long time since we've had two, but that classic Nintendo Entertainment System seems to be a big deal. That thing's sold out everywhere.
Yep, it certainly is. It was a hot item. And, you know, I think, again, once the overwhelming demand for that continues, I think you're going to see just like a lot more sleek version. You know, they're already out there through third parties, where, you know, you can basically just buy the games in a downloadable format, put them all on a flash drive, and you still have your Nintendo system and your controllers. But, you know, it's more economical. And I think, you know, I think that's, I'd like to see more retro gaming systems. So the Sega Genesis has one as well. Not doing as well as the Nintendo one, but there is a Sega Genesis retro system out there as well. I saw when I was out shopping that is similar. They have a lot of it's the old system, but it's computerized. They have like the preloaded games.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to having some of those. I mean, you know me, I ain't gonna pay full price for that shit. I'll wait till the price comes down a little bit, which it will sooner rather than later. Plus, I've got the one up on everybody because I still have an NES that works, like original from the mid '80s, like blow on the cartridge type shit that still plays. So, you know, if I want to play bad enough, I just hook that bad boy up. But I don't have the library of games that come preloaded on this new system.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit going on with that. I would like to see like the N64 and some of those other retro systems reissued. I'm not like a hardcore gamer, but I'm a very casual video gamer. But I do love to kill some time playing some video games and doing it the nostalgic way and playing the easy games that you grew up with are always a lot of fun, though you kind of get spoiled if you're also playing the newer games, which I do play some of. So, you know, the difference is night and day, but it's fun to harken back to a simpler time.
I know, man. I thought I'm really not into games. I own an Xbox 360, and I got it years after it came out. And, you know, I got into it a little bit. There's a couple games I like, but I definitely prefer the simpler the simpler games from back in the day. I mean, because, man, there were some Nintendo games. I can't believe they were designed for kids because they were hard as a motherfucker.
Oh, there were some that would make you want to, like, I mean, some that just, like, didn't even have a point, like the Friday the 13th game. Like, that was the dumbest fucking game of all time. Like, you could never kill Jason. You couldn't even come close to killing Jason. And if you beat him, then he'd just come back. So it's like, what was the point of the game?
Well, that's just like the movie. But I actually beat that as an adult. But, I mean, I cheated. Like, I looked up how to do it and shit because it's hard as fuck. But, okay, man, Contra. Contra's a great game. And if you type in the code to get 99 lives, you can beat that sumbitch all day long. But if you don't, you ain't getting past level 3.
Oh, no. And there's, like, no forgiveness. It's like, you die, and you fucking continue. You just fucking die. And that's it. Like,
Yeah.
you know, most games now, you can't even, like, officially die. You know, you just respawn infinitely. But not those old games.
Nowadays, these kids don't have a fucking clue, man. There's so many of those games back in the day. Super Mario Brothers, there was no continue. You might could warp zone all the way to level 8 in about 3 minutes, but if you don't beat that motherfucker without losing a life, I mean, you're screwed. No continue. Checkpoint my ass.
Good times, though. Good times, and like I said, I'd like to see some more of those retro systems come out. But to continue a discussion we had last week on the program, when Fast Eddie Lane, who our producer of the program, always sitting in on the broadcast. Say hello, Eddie.
Morning.
So me and Eddie discussed this a little bit at the end of the show, but I wanted to come back around to it because it was a hot topic a few weeks ago, and there's still a lot of the back and forth between the schools of thought here. And you and I had an interesting discussion via text message about this because we were kind of on opposing ends of the spectrum. And, like, so we're talking about the Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar finish from Survivor Series a few weeks ago, where they shocked the world and had Goldberg beat Brock Lesnar in like 90 seconds in a straight squash match. And lots of people were infuriated, couldn't understand why they did it. I said that I thought it was a pretty brilliant move. Now, with that said, I understand the big picture issues, it's particularly as relates to the streak and the Undertaker. But they clearly had decided they were going to attach their horse to the cart of of Goldberg. So if you're going to get Goldberg over, that's really the only way you can do it, in my opinion. Your thoughts?
I mean, at first, I was really too shocked to be all that mad, but and I'm trying now to really wait until the picture is fully painted before I get real bent out of shape. But I was just thinking if, big if, because at first it was, kind of planned to be a one-off thing. So you didn't know what was going to happen. So the question was if that was a one-off, if that was the only time they were going to meet and that's all they were doing with it. I thought it was total bullshit. Like I was furious thinking about that. The whole, sacrificing the Undertaker's streak and things like that. But then I was like, man, they're going to do something. Like, there's no way that's it. And, of course, the very next night, it was announced that Goldberg's in the Rumble. Now Lesnar's in the Rumble. And I think it's pretty obvious they're going to get to WrestleMania, and it gives Goldberg a chance to get more prepared physically. And I kind of instantly saw that it was kind of a UFC-esque inspired thing, because how many of these big UFC fights have ended so quickly, and it would be so shocking? Because, in reality, yeah, you could catch somebody off guard, and I was hoping, I was thinking, hopefully they'll play up that maybe Goldberg broke Lesnar's ribs or bruised a rib, and You know, he gets up, he can't breathe, and boom, he nails him again, and then he gets him with the finish. And that's exactly what Heyman said in a sit-down interview. Like, that's exactly the story they went with. And it makes sense, you know. So in hindsight, at the end of the day, hey, it was a pretty good call. I mean, it was a very good call. It got people caught.
Cool. Well, I'm with that.
Oh, we lost
Did we
him.
lose?
Yeah, we just
Hello,
lost,
yeah. Did we lose you, Andrew?
yeah,
Okay.
we just lost him.
All right. Well, so we'll try to get Andrew back on the line here, but he was just saying in the big picture of things, he's a little more forgiving of the finish than he was initially. My biggest thing was look at the history of Goldberg. Look how he got over in the first place. It wasn't by going 10 minutes. It wasn't by going 15 minutes. It was the old Nikita Koloff style of getting in there and slaughtering the meat, and the people got with it. And they got with it more and more and more and more. And, Hulk Hogan not in the prime of his career, but certainly in a big money drawing point in his career, did the same match on the Live Nitro in the Georgia Dome and also put Goldberg over clean. This is the way you had to do it because he's limited. That's pretty much what he brings to the table. But when he does it, people love it. But eventually you got to have that match. So they're clearly trying to push that off as far as possible so they can make it the best match it can be when the time comes. And until then, you get a lot of interesting smoke and mirrors that keeps you intrigued and keeps you watching. That's my opinion on it. Did we ever get Andrew back, Eddie?
No, I'm still waiting. Tell you what, if you want to, I've got a stop set and ready. We can go ahead and take a quick one, and we'll try to get him back in the easy way.
We'll do that.
Would you take us to break, or do you want me to do it?
I'll do it. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back at you on the Midnight Black Mass. And we're back on the Midnight Black Mass. So, yes, we were talking about the Brock Lesnar-Goldberg finish and the various schools of thought. But I agree with Andrew. I say wait for the big picture because, they need to protect Goldberg. And he seems to be giving them a financial pop in a down period of business. So if that's the name of the game, then I'd say they're doing it right. What about it?
We just lost Andrew again, but I'll go ahead and take the question. Yes, any time that we could actually get some kind of a decent upturn, whether it be buys on the network, whether it be website hits, and especially souvenir sales. And if you've got that one person who is an old school WCW fan or a fan of Lesnar who was on the fence about going to Raw, and then all of a sudden, boop, guess what? Hey, Goldberg's going to be there. I'm buying the ticket. Guess what? You're going to get that uptick, and it's always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a short-term Band-Aid, but you take what you can get in the wrestling business sometimes. You're stupid to let any opportunity to make money slip through your grasp if you're running a wrestling show. And in the case of them, it's the biggest wrestling show in the world. So they're going to maximize the potential of money that they can make. There's a lot of fans that may not like that, but I think it's safe to say in 2016, you have gotten so much from the wrestling world, literally a flavor of ice cream for everybody. So I think it's hard to complain if it's causing excitement and it's generating some sort of buzz for the product. I think everybody wins in that scenario, in my humble opinion.
No need to be humble. You're dead on target.
Well, I try. So apparently we're still Andrew-less here on the Midnight Black Mass, but we'll press on until he joins us, and hopefully that'll be soon. Any word on that, Eddie?
Still waiting. We tried to get him back in, and my Skype is deciding to be a pain in the wazoo this evening, so unfortunately I can't call out right now.
That's okay. That's sometimes the perils of running this thing live, and we'll be all right. Do a quick plug for my social media while we're transitioning here. You can follow me on Twitter at Dragons Rejects, at Facebook, facebook.com/Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson. Keep up with me and my various appearances. I've got some things coming up in 2017 already on the books. We'll be announcing soon. Got, of course, one thing I can confirm, the NWA Wildside reunion coming up January 28th in Cornelia, Georgia. Don't want to miss that. Dan the Dragon Wilson reuniting with Stephen Prazak in the broadcast booth. We know that for sure because I've talked to Prazak and Bill and the various administrative folk involved in this, and I can safely say that's going to happen. I can't still divulge any real information about the card, but we know now over 40 former NWA Wildside stars will be appearing. It will be once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, possibly, to go down memory lane. It's always nice when you can hop in the DeLorean and revisit the past, if only for a night, but also look to the future and just catch up with everybody and see how they're doing and, see how their lives have changed over time. These are people I was very close with for a very long period of time in the wrestling business, which is, 5 or 6 year span. So, and then of course it went on to Anarchy, and most of them stayed. But there was a lot of guys that didn't, and a lot of guys that were coming in for Wildside from different places that didn't come back when it moved over to Anarchy and became more of a regional thing as opposed to a national thing. And so, just really excited to see a lot of old faces and get back in the announcer booth. I've done a lot of that in 2016, but I'd like to do a lot more in 2017. That's really where, from a performance aspect, where I'd like to be headed. But I'm available for all kinds of bookings. You can email me at dragonsrejects@gmail.com for booking information. I have the Deadly Sin 7 and Death Wish Brad Cash that I can bring around, as well as the Strong Style Psycho Tank on his farewell tour. You want to get a piece of that. The Big of Inconceivable Horror Iceberg, all members of the Devil's Rejects currently, and, still available and taking bookings doing that as well. But available as an announcer, as a booker. I've done that many times, and can come in and assist you with improving your product, and that handles all facets, not just booking, but I can generally consult and advise you on any number of aspects of your business that might need attention. Now, whether or not you listen to me, that's up to you. I can't make you do that, but I can give you the advice, and you can pay me for it. So, and I can also perform weddings. The Reverend is not just on television, folks. I can actually perform weddings. I can do it in full gimmick as the Reverend Dan Wilson. I can put on a Hawaiian shirt and be the dragon and ask your bride how the hell she is. Or you could just get me, just old Dan off the street, just dressing like a normal dude in a suit that looks like he might have been a roadie for Leonard Skinner. But those are the various services I offer. Hello.
You win.
And you want to see Dan live, because as I've proven tonight, when it's live, anything can happen.
So, would you like to finish your point before we completely move on to something else?
Well, man, I finished my point. I was ranting and raving, and then I'm sitting there like an idiot saying, hello? My phone's dead. I'm well over 30% battery, but this fucking phone just decided to die. And I turn it back on, and it dies again. These fucks at AT&T, they're trying to get me to upgrade. They're fucking with me. They're messing my phone up because they want me to upgrade. But I'm never paying $800, even if you split it up into payments. I'm not a fucking mark. I know I'm still paying the same amount. I'm not paying $800 for a fucking phone. It's not happening.
They want you to pay $800 for a phone?
Well, like that. I got to get a decent phone. I got to get an iPhone. I got to stay up with the times. And there's $600 to $800. But they're like, oh, we'll split it up into payments. Fuck that. I don't need any more payments in my life. I got enough bills. They need to bring back the upgrade. I signed with them for 2 years. You give me a free phone or a cheap phone. But no, they're fucking crooks. And then they mess with the phone.
Have you gone to, like, your Targets or Best Buys of the world?
Yeah, and they got deals for everyone but AT&T.
Yep.
And see,
Damn it.
I can't leave AT&T because I got unlimited data. I'm grandfathered in on that shit. You can't even get it anymore. So I'm Facebooking, I'm social media, Snapchat, checking email. I'm doing all that shit, and I don't worry about nothing. Now all these other people out here are like, oh my God, I only got 5 gigabytes left. My kid used all my unlimited, my data plan and shit is expired. Fuck that noise. I ain't paying for damn internet and data. AT&T can kiss my ass.
On this week's edition of Consumer Complaints on the Midnight Black Mass, Andrew Alexander unveils his...
Okay, so
Go ahead.
What did we hear about my Lesnar-Goldberg rant? Where did we leave off?
You pretty much said that, once you saw the big picture, you were okay with it, but you were hesitant in the short term. And I said while you were gone that, the only way Goldberg got over was beating people in a minute. If you put him out there longer than that, he's exposed. So they need this time in the story, like with the Royal Rumble, to protect him and get people interested in the angle. And then they can put together one decent match, hopefully, by the time they get there.
Yeah, and I think it was great too, just because it got everyone talking. And I mean, okay, I was at a major retailer shopping for, retail shit, and this chick walked by, and I think she was with her mom. Needless to say, this girl was not the type of girl that watches professional wrestling because she was smoking hot. But she, now we're going to have fans. If there's any female listeners, which I highly doubt there are, but they're going to be pissed off because they think I just said they're not hot. But hey, guess what? You're probably not. I apologize in advance. But she walked by, and there's some wrestling merchandise in the aisle, and her mom said something about, does anyone even watch wrestling anymore? And I overheard the chick say, yeah, it's still popular. This old guy that used to wrestle a long time ago came back and beat Brock Lesnar in like a minute the other night. And I was like, wow, like, they know about that shit. And, you know, they don't know, they have not watched wrestling probably ever, but they knew about it. So it was a pretty good idea there because it was arguably the most shocking thing in WWE history. I mean, it's right up there with the streak ending. It may actually kind of even be more shocking. Can you think of anything that would be on par with that as far as shock value?
Be hard to say. I mean, nothing in a good way, for sure. I mean, I would have never expected David Arquette to win the title. I would have probably expected that less than I expected Goldberg to beat Lesnar. But that was not good shocking. That was throw up in my mouth a little bit shocking. So, you know, the Goldberg thing was an exciting shocking. And, yeah, I'd say it's definitely right up there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's been things that you're like, wow, I can't believe they did that. But like you said, it's typically in a bad way. I mean, I just think it's up there with just because people didn't know how they were going to do the match and stuff, but I don't think anyone would have said, oh, I bet it'll only be a minute and 27 seconds. And Goldberg will win, and Lesnar will just look like a punk. I mean, it was a fucking squash match. It was crazy. But, you know, in the long run, it seems like it was a good idea. It seems to be working out well. I hope Lesnar can come back and look really strong, and I still hope that he works a big program with someone who could use the rub and make a superstar. And my vote has been for quite a while. I think that's how you introduce Samoa Joe to the main roster. I mean, not just to come beat him his debut night, beat Lesnar, but you build it up where he wants Lesnar. He says, you know, he feels he's the baddest sumbitch on the planet. Lesnar just kind of shrugs him off because he's like, who the fuck are you? You know, and eventually they face, and I think Joe, you know, he doesn't even have to beat him. He just chokes him out, which, as we know, is kind of, it'll make him look strong, but it still keeps Lesnar strong as well. You know, that's my fantasy booking for the subject, but, you know, we'll see. Time will tell. I'm calling the night after Mania Samoa Joe debuts. Punk Lesnar out. We'll see.
That all sounds great to me. You know, if I'm watching, that sounds enjoyable. And I think Lesnar's Teflon at this point. I don't think. I mean, you could fuck him up, but I don't think that does anything to hurt him at all. Especially when you got a guy like Heyman out there to get the heat back and things like that. You know, I think he's going to be fine.
Plus, realistically, exactly. I mean, I wonder how many more matches or how many more years that they plan on getting out of Lesnar, because you know he's set money-wise. I mean, he's still a great athlete. He doesn't look bad, but you know, who knows how long he actually wants to do this. We know he's a very different kind of dude. He doesn't like people and traveling and things such as that. So it's curious to see exactly how long he wants to keep this up. But I'm sure he's making incredible money for minimal work. I mean, I can't think of a schedule that's been lighter than his ever, pretty much. So, you know, he may milk that for a couple of years. I think the Suplex City bit is getting a little stale. I mean, actually, in my opinion, I think it's kind of very stale. It was hot, but he can still do it. But as far as just that kind of being it, and him running through guys, beating them after that, it's like, you know, I thought his match this year at WrestleMania with Dean Ambrose, who was really on fire at the time, I thought it was like the worst match on the card, pretty much. And that's, you know, that shouldn't be the case. I think you get Samoa Joe and Lesnar, and I think right off the bat, Lesnar gives him a big German, and Joe just no-sells that shit and stands up, looks like a monster, and then they fought. I mean, of course, he fails throughout the match, but, you know, that first one, I think he's like, fuck you.
some promoters out there, you're listening to the booking genius of Andrew Alexander, who was the Georgia Wrestling History Booker of the Year just a couple years ago. So, you know,
I've never written for a failed Hollywood sitcom, so I know I wouldn't fit in for creative with them. But I've watched wrestling a little bit. I have a couple of decent ideas.
But if you're looking for a good booker, then you should contact Andrew Alexander or myself.
Oh, I wouldn't. I mean, someone asked me recently about, why don't I try to book another wrestling promotion, and I told them it would take some serious money, the type of money that if a promoter actually paid me that, we wouldn't be in business long because shows around here cannot pay that money. I'm not entering that rat race again.
It's a challenge. Let me just tell you, without divulging too much, today has been a particular challenge, and there's been some other challenges this week that I'm not going to go into right now, but just the job of a booker is the most thankless and difficult 24-hour job, and every time you have your cards set and everybody's confirmed, some asshole is got to cancel or running late, or and I understand that life happens, and this is independent wrestling, and some things are not as important as this. So everybody does this for different reasons. But if you show up and you give it your all, I don't care what your reasons are. But, when was the last time you booked a card that you actually finalized, formatted, and down at Why We Wrestle, we've been doing television, so that's been even more interesting with the vignettes and formatting it for that purpose. That actually happened the way you typed it before you left the house.
Oh, I honestly don't know if that's ever happened. Maybe some of the mega events, but even a lot of those was just you're scrambling. I mean, we won't go into all the details, but good Lord, the Chasing the Grail from last year, whoo, man, that was a train wreck that I just knew was going to be the worst show in Empire's history, and then it turned out to be pretty fucking awesome, which is a testament to all of the talent at Empire, and mostly a testament to me because I'm a bad motherfucker. But I've said this for a while, and I really think it's kind of true. If you ask all the boys in the locker room, all the wrestlers, if you ask them all if they could be a good referee, I think they would. Some of them would say no. And if you ask all the referees if they could be good wrestlers, some of them would say no. And if you ask wrestlers if they could be good managers, some of them would say no. But if you ask every motherfucker associated with any wrestling company if they could be a good booker, they would all instantly say, "Oh yeah, of course, I can do that."
You speak the truth, because everybody does think they can do the job, or that they. And I appreciate collaboration and ideas. I generally try to hire talent that I know I don't have to micromanage, that I can tell them the big picture of what I want, and generally speaking, they get it right. And if they don't, then that's an area for some training, some coaching, and an area to help them get it right the next time. But I don't generally like to book guys that I have to micromanage in that respect. But even so, they do all think that they can do it better. In the back of their mind they do. And I'm not like egotistical about it at all at this point. And with age brings some wisdom and some humbleness. And if you think you can do it, step on up. It's quite a challenge.
Yeah, I agree with the micromanage thing. I definitely don't like to do that. I didn't like to do that at all. everybody needs direction, though. Everybody needs, a little assistance, a little help, getting to the point you want to get them to. But, some need very, very little. I love the guys that you say, this is what I want, and walk away, and you don't talk to them until after their match, and it was, borderline perfect. And, there's some guys like that. But then there's other guys that you have to explain every detail, and they ask you a million questions. And, they mean well. They just don't want to do something foolish, and I'd rather them do that than to take swings and strike out. But it's always nice when you have talent that you don't have to explain every detail to.
Yeah, and the other, like my biggest thing that I don't like about booking, which is, I do try to make it worth my time from a financial perspective, but also feasible for the promotion. But, it's being tethered to my phone and never being able to escape the locker room. 24 hours a day, you're getting messages, guys wanting to get booked, guys pitching ideas, even when you're trying to just be away from wrestling. Like, I don't think Bill Watts or Eddie Graham or any of the great bookers from the time before we all had a cell phone attached to our hip had to worry about that because they could escape. They could just go be in solitude. But, now we all have to be tethered to technology, both for security and just for selfish reasons. But it gets a little overwhelming at times where I'm just like, and I probably snap on some people that I shouldn't in that respect, because sometimes I'm just like, well, you leave me the fuck alone. Or, like with Facebook, it's even worse now because they can see if you've read the message. So, like, a lot of the times I prefer to just let several accumulate and then sit down and, okay, I'll take an hour or whatever to handle wrestling business right now. So I'll sit down and respond to all the messages and do some booking, write some notes and stuff like that. That's how I prefer to handle it. But then some of them get antsy. So they see you've seen their message, like, I saw you read my message. Like, why are you responding? Like, motherfucker, I'll get to it when I fucking get to it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like, it's very rarely rewarding, and it's a great feeling when you put together some good stuff and it pulls off and everything. But man, I've been so much less stressed since since Tooth and Nail of this year. Even though we had a show after that, a big event after that, man, I've just been so less stressed. Like it's an unbelievable difference, because it's a daily thing, hearing from guys canceling. You can't even really enjoy it. I mean, very few times would I be at a show and actually enjoy it, especially start to finish, just because there's always something. There's always some bullshit, and it's crazy, man. I can't imagine. I don't know if it would be a little easier, like, say, being in the WWE, because the guys are employees and you basically tell them to do something and they, within reason have to do it. They all have to be there, whether they're booked or not. They're all there. So if you need them or something goes wrong, you need to replace it. But on the other hand, those guys are making serious money, so they take it even more serious. You got egos to deal with and things such as that. But so it's kind of a double-edged sword. I don't know if it would be less frustrating or more frustrating. I want to say it would be less, though.
I don't know. I think less in some ways and more in others. Apparently, just and not from anybody that I'm friends with that told me anything there. Nothing like that. But if you just listen to podcasts and things where these stories are repeated multiple times by people that were there, apparently it's not a very happy place, the creative team in the WWE. So apparently it's a very stressful job. So, as much shit as those guys get, I can imagine it's really a difficult line to walk working in that office. So, try to be a little sympathetic to him, I guess. But two things about what you're talking about as far as the difficulties. One is you've got to get hooked up with a good promoter. And there are many great people who put in a lot of earnest effort in independent wrestling promotion and by proxy helped create something great. Drew Delight was one of those people through the Empire. There's been, many others in recent years, but unfortunately, there's very few true wrestling promoters around. And for whatever reason, and again, like it goes back to what I said earlier, everybody gets into this for different reasons. But for whatever reason, if you can't devote basically full-time working hours to being a promoter, then you can't do it justice. You can't do it right, and you can't make the money that is going to be needed to be made to really sustain a legitimate wrestling promotion over the long haul. Even if you work at a real job, you've got to take at least that much extra time to put it into promoting. It's going to mean a lot of sleepless nights, and it will envelop your life. It's not a decision you want to take lightly. Bill Behrens put a great piece up about this on his social media a few weeks ago. It's something that will change your life dramatically in every facet. It's not Field of Dreams. You cannot build it and they will not show up. You have to get out there and bust your ass and get the word out. And so if you have promotional help from the company where they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing, that makes your job a lot easier for one, because you're not having to pinch pennies. You're not having to, nickel and dime the talent and beg them to constantly work for less or come in for less to try to make things work. So that's and that's tough. And the other, besides that, is you got to get in bed with a good promoter. And I've lost my goddamn train of thought, but I had a second point. Andrew, any feedback on what I just said?
Oh, man, I agree with everything you just said. It makes the job a lot easier if you have someone with the qualities that you described and someone that's busting ass and everything. And man, we know there's so many local shows in the Southeast, and very few of them have good, both really, good booker, good promoter. Definitely hard to find a combination of the two at one place. But yeah, it is like a Field of Dreams situation. They just think, well, we're putting on a wrestling show. People will be here. People love wrestling. They want to come see it. They want to pay their money to come see it. That's it. And that is not fucking it. I like you had a quote years ago about a wrestling promoter who didn't really want to promote. You said something about, I think you said, well, McDonald's is a pretty fucking big deal, but I still see commercials for them.
Oh, yeah. One promoter years ago, who shall remain nameless, was getting mad at the houses we were drawing. And I wasn't the booker at the time, but, I was involved in the office, as I generally am most places. And, I don't usually want to be. They usually just put me there. The curse of having skills, I suppose. But, so, yeah, and somebody had asked, well, hell, man, when was the last time you put out any flyers or did any advertising? And they're like, well, hell, people want to know where we are by now based on word of mouth. What do you mean advertising? This place is here every 2 weeks. It doesn't go anywhere. And I think my quote was, yeah, well, fucking McDonald's, they're not going anywhere either, but I still see commercials for them.
Amen.
Oh, man, that's the mindset. I wish, and it's something that probably maybe would have never seen the light of day, and partly, to degrees you don't want it to see the light of day, really, because I don't know. There's so much business exposing shit, but I guess it really doesn't matter these days, to be honest. But, man, imagine if we had just a one-camera setup to follow along the Empire goings-on for a good 5 years. Like think The Office, the premise of The Office, but it was legit. It was just a camera crew that followed us for 5 years and saw all that shit. That would be some entertaining shit. Like I think people would dig it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody wants nowadays. You know, they want to see a peek behind the curtain, as well as what's in front of the curtain. So I think it's part and parcel. It's not my preference. I like to keep the fucking mystique and mystery surrounding shit, but nobody else seems to. So I don't see a problem with it. So my other point. Oh, go ahead.
No, I definitely agree with you there. I prefer that too, but there's so much stuff out there. I just know that if that was done, if that was presented, there's just so many things that people would, you know, shocking things and drama and funny shit. Just, you know, if it was out there, I think people would really get a kick out of it.
Yeah, for sure. So my other point that I spaced out on earlier came up. And what I wanted to address was, you know, how you said you didn't really get anything fulfilling out of doing it versus all the stresses. And I kind of started looking at it a little bit differently in that respect. Is like, you know, if you can't ever get the promoter to do what they're supposed to do, then that's only on you to a certain degree. You can choose to quit and go somewhere else. But what's most rewarding to me now is working with the talent and seeing them develop and getting to know the newer generations of talent and meeting the ones that are really go-getters that, you know, really want to learn, that really want to be there, and developing that relationship with them to help them on to the next level, because that's really all I know from the wrestling world. Going back to the Wild Side days, it's always talent development has been kind of how I learned the business. So that's if I'm a booker somewhere, I'm also coaching, you know, because I want the finished product that I want to see, but also want to help these guys on their journey and you know, help them pick up some psychological tidbits and some old tricks of the trade that they might not have known otherwise.
Yeah, I actually, believe it or not, I went to a local show that's extremely close to my house last Saturday. I went very late because I was asked by a former Empire talent who I always enjoyed, who I was a fan of, enjoyed watching and get along with very well personally. That I've seen basically once since Empire shut down. And so I went and I said, you know, are you last match? And they're like, yeah, main event. So I purposely went as close to as late as I could because I did not want to be there at all. But we were going to go eat afterwards, you know, it'd be a good time. So I went and watched this match or whatever. Somebody said, you know, waiting for him to get, I told him, he comes to the back. I'm like, okay, get dressed as fast as you fucking can. I want to get out of here. And, you know, somebody comes up and was saying something about, oh, you're going to be here this time? And the manager's like, no, I can't. So I started saying, well, you better do something next show to explain that, because blah, blah, blah. And I started booking it, and I just stopped mid-sentence, and I said, never fucking mind. Just do absolutely anything you want to. I don't want. And I had to get the hell out of there. I was like, oh my God, trying to suck me back in. I'm booking this shit. I didn't want him to start asking. I didn't want him asking any advice or nothing. And then the booker actually texted my buddy the next like a day or two later and said, so did Alexander shit all over the show? he's like, no, he really didn't say anything. And he says, well, I know it wasn't a great show. And then he pointed out, he's like, he really only saw one match. And he goes, I know it wasn't a great show. I'd like him to come to the better one because maybe he would like it. And but some of the guys thought that he was downing the show and talking shit about it, which I wasn't. You know, I was just like, let's get the fuck out of here. I don't want to be at a wrestling show. I don't want to be here at all. You know, but then I'm thinking that's it's so dramatic. Like all these guys, like, oh, I think he was talking shit about the show. I wasn't saying shit. But what if I was talking shit? Like, what are they going to do? I don't work that show. I'm not going back to that show. They going to give me heat or something? I was like, it was just all very funny to me. The drama.
The local wrestling bullshit. I mean, you get what you pay for in that respect, and there's less of that. The greater level of talent, but it never totally goes away. But certainly once you get with more professional talent, you don't have to deal with so much of that petty drama, though it's always fucking there for sure. That doesn't mean it goes away. It's just somewhat mitigated versus on the local shows where it can be, one of these guys who it's all they have. They don't go work other places. They're a superstar in a small pond, and they feel threatened when people from the outside come in because, especially if they're accomplished at any level, then they feel like they're coming to take their spot. So that's why that happens.
And nothing could be further from the truth, because I was like incognito, like had a hood on, and was like, man, I hope there's no one at the show that knows who I am. Not that I, not being cocky, like not that I'm well known, and I walk in and people are like, oh, it is Andrew Alexander. I just legitimately was like, God, I hope I don't know anyone here and they don't want to talk to me about wrestling or whatever. Luckily, I only knew like 2 or 3 guys, barely. So it was just kind of, oh, hey, how are you? I was like, oh, good. And,
I've just gotten to the point, like, if I'm booking, I need to have autonomy. So if, in terms of, like, the talent that is used, you're not going to force some shitty talent on me because I have to use them, It's like, you give me a budget, I'll get the talent you need, and we'll kick some ass. But I don't need some drama starters.
You had to put up with that like about a decade ago. That was good times, with talent being forced on you.
Oh God, yeah, that was a fun experience. We won't speak ill of the dead, lest the ghost of Christmas yet to come will haunt me. But so we're about out of time for this week's edition. I know I promised you, and I never break my promises, but sometimes they're delayed. So I promised you we would be doing a special Christmas horror movie edition of the program tonight, but we got off on this nice little Booker's venting session, and I think it was going in a direction that you might have found interesting. So we just kept that going. So next week
and that's my fault. I have some technical difficulties, just random, that cannot be explained and really pissed me off. Put me in a foul mood. I took it out on the listeners, but that's my fault. I apologize. Next week or whenever we're back live, we will go into great detail about those topics.
We can go ahead and go ahead and promise them next weekend if you're down. We can go ahead and come back for one more before the holidays. I noticed we did still have one more Monday before Christmas, so we'll come back and we'll do next Monday, and then we'll break for the holidays, and we'll break probably until after the New Year, and then we'll be back with a brand new volume of the show, but we'll close it out with a doozy next week. Our favorite Christmas horror movies. I think that's a perfect topic for the Midnight Black Mass. I am at one with the Yuletide, as the late Ernest P. Worrell would have said. Andrew is a bit of a Grinch, but even so, Christmas horror movies would be right down his alley, you would think. So we're going to talk about some of the greats. We're going to talk about some of the not-so-greats. What are your favorites? Chime in on social media. Let us know. Dragons Rejects on Twitter. Rev Dan the Dragon Wilson on Facebook. You can find Andrew Alexander on Facebook. We're going to talk about movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night, the Gremlins, Krampus, and a whole lot more. So I'm very excited to get into the Christmas horror-themed edition of the Midnight Black Mass next week. Any closing comments, Andrew?
No, not at all. I look forward to it, and I apologize again to our listeners. I think of all the shows we've done, though, to only have one huge technical mishap, that's pretty fucking good.
That's right. Hey, we're putting it together on a shoestring budget so that we can give it to you for free here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I'd like to thank Fast City Lane and our partners here at Beyond Ringside. Check out all their great programming, beyondringside.com, prowrestlingradio.net. Fast Eddie, you want to go throw any final plugs out there?
Actually, we're going to be kicking it back over on Tuesday night, December the 13th, real quick. That is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central for Global Championship Wrestling's GCW Radio. 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central on the 13th. Beyond Ringside Back to Basics takes over. Wednesday, the 14th, the To Be Determined show with the Wicked Nemesis, Angie Tessarian, and talk about, yes, the Asylum will be back, and so will the Classroom. And on Thursday, the 15th, the Shooters Gallery kicks off at, we're going to make that one 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central this Thursday night. So, and with everything going on with all the WWE stuff, you know something, I think we're a safe bet because I don't think that many people are going to watch Roadblock next weekend. Check out beyondringside.com and, of course, prowrestlingradio.net. For me personally, it's fasteddylane.com.
All right, and that's going to do it, folks. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. This is the Ref, Randy Alexander, and Fast Eddie Lane. We're out.